I am going to convene the meeting, and Shelby, you can go ahead and ring the bell. And with that beautiful sound, I welcome today, November 9th, 2021, to the 5,593rd meeting of the Rotary Club in Chicago. So ever since then, 1905, this club has met once a week. So we are still counting, all right? So, okay, among my announcements, I would like to share with you that today, as you know, this is Polio Month, and eradication of polio is a cause that joined Rotarians all over the world. And today we are on the brink of eradicating a human disease for only the second time in history. After a decades-long fight, polio is at last nearly gone. We cannot stop until we completely eradicate polio, which is why on November 20th, I am going to join Rotary members from Arizona and from District 5500 and Rotarians from other parts of the United States in El Trude, Tucson, to raise funds for polio eradication. The 100-mile ride, I am only doing 60, or 57, that's a circuit, attracts usually about 9,000 cyclists a year and is one of the top cycling events in the United States. This year, my personal miles to end polio fundraising goal is $3,000. I started with 1,000, but I keep increasing it because friends have been really fabulous in contributing for this cause. I will need your help to meet this stretch goal. And always you have to keep in mind that thanks to the matching from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, your contributions will be matched 2-to-1. And I'm very happy to say that not only I've had friends from Rotary supporting me, but friends outside Rotary who understand how important it is to eradicate polio. All right, so Tamara dropped in the chat box the link. All right, and also you can, oh yeah, there's my fundraising page. So wherever you send your contributions, you will get your points, and everything will go to the big pot where all the funds raised for this campaign for polio this year will go to the same big pot. Okay, so go ahead and keep contributing. And I would like to thank those of you who are here that have supported me on the ride already. Now, the next step is to introduce David Hirsch, our co-chair of the Programs Committee, who once again has invited another fabulous speaker to our meetings. And I would like to thank you, David, very much. And I will leave the floor to you. So go ahead. We would love to hear your introduction to Ms. Sherrod.
It's my privilege to introduce my friend and longtime acquaintance, Shirley Sherrod of Albany, Georgia. Shirley and I first met in 1993. We were 2 of 50 selected from around the country to be part of what's known as the Group 13 Fellows W.K. Kellogg Foundation National Leadership Program, one of the country's premier interdisciplinary leadership programs, which spanned the following 3 years. So Shirley grew up in rural Georgia during the era of Jim Crow. Tragically, on March 25th, 1965, her father, who was a farmer, was murdered by another farmer, a white farmer, who was never prosecuted. And from that point going forward, Shirley has led a remarkable life as a civil rights activist and advocate for farmers in rural communities. Shirley is married to Charles Sherrod, a minister and fellow civil rights activist. And in the 1960s, the Sherrods joined with other civil rights activists to establish something called New Communities, Inc., the first community land trust in the United States. With nearly 6,000 acres, it was the largest tract of Black-owned land in the country. There are now several hundred such land trusts. Unfortunately, New Communities, Inc. lost the land in 1985 after a series of disasters, both natural, drought, and man-made institutional racism. Landless but not broken, New Communities became part of what's known as the Pigford versus Glickman class action lawsuit a landmark case against the United States Department of Agriculture to address decades of racism against African American farmers. It wasn't until 2009, after decades of struggle, New Communities won the largest payout in the Pigford case. Shirley has spent most of her career as the Georgia State Field Director for the Federation of Southern Cooperatives from July of 1985 through August 2009. And in 2009, Shirley was appointed by the Obama administration as the Georgia State Director for Rural Development, the first person of color to hold that position. Shirley made headlines in 2010 when conservative blogger Andrew Breitbart misleadingly edited a video of Shirley's speech that made it appear as if she was racist. She was forced to resign almost immediately, and although the full video exonerated her afterwards, Shirley declined to take another job in the government. She published a book entitled The Courage to Hope: How I Stood Up to the Politics of Fear, which was nominated for an NCAA-CP Image Award in 2013. What I admire most about Shirley is her conviction, her courage, and her commitment to serve regardless of adversity. Shirley, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, David, for that introduction. And it's great to see you after so many years.
Same.
And good afternoon to everyone. I'm happy to spend this little time. I always like to share as much as I can about the work that we do in this area of Georgia and share, I love Southwest Georgia. So share a little bit with you about the area. Currently, I serve as the director of the Southwest Georgia Project for Community Education, an organization that we formed in the 60s, my husband and others, to work. We were part of SNCC early on, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And when Stokely Carmichael became the director after John Lewis, saying that all whites had to leave to go work in their own community, we didn't agree with that. So we separated at that point from SNCC and created the Southwest Georgia Project for Community Education. We started, my work. Let me, before I get into what the work I've done, I really would like to tell you a little bit more about Southwest Georgia. We're in the southwestern corner of the state, about 180 miles south of Atlanta, about 100 miles north of Tallahassee, Florida. It's one of the largest farming areas in the state. Lots of peanuts, cotton, corn, soybeans, wheat, cattle, and so forth being produced from this area. In fact, I'm sitting here about 30 miles from one of the largest produce farmers in the country. And I can tell you that most of that produce gets shipped out to other parts of the country and not so much of it consumed here in this part of the state. Most of the counties in Southwest Georgia have a high poverty rate. In fact, I'm in the city of Albany, and the poverty rate here is almost 40%. We lose lots of population. Our young people don't really want to stay in the area. A lot of them are being pulled toward Atlanta, which makes it very, very difficult for us. So the Georgia Chamber has said they're predicting that the population change over the next 10 to 14 years for this area will see 38% more seniors who put us will put the healthcare system in a strain, and social services as they retire. I can tell you, we're losing population. We've lost lots of influence. This used to be one of the most influential areas of the state. It's not so now. We're losing Generation Xers at the highest rate in the state at 14%. So it doesn't help to look for a pretty picture going forward And we can't seem, even during the civil rights era and up till now, to figure out how we can all work together to turn these numbers around. So I grew up in this part of the state. I can tell you, I grew up on a farm, picking cotton, doing all of the back-breaking work on the farm. We actually owned our farm. And I would work picking cotton and looking at the sun, saying, you just wait until I get out of high school. My goal was to get as far away from the farm, to never have anything else to do with agriculture in my life, and to get as far away from the South as I could. I grew up in a county, Baker County, that had a reputation in terms of the sheriffs. The sheriff before my lifetime killed a Black person. He lynched him. And that led to a landmark case, Screws versus the U.S. government, because an all-white federal jury convicted the sheriff not of murdering Bobby Hall, but of depriving him of his civil rights. And he appealed all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, where the conviction was overturned. The Supreme Court justice who wrote the opinion said you had to prove that in order to find him guilty, you had to prove that as he was murdering him, he was thinking of depriving him of his civil rights. So the whole case of proven intent came from Screws versus the U.S. government, where I came from. And then during my lifetime, the sheriff was known as the Gator. He ruled everything there. You couldn't ride through Baker County without being stopped. Many times you just paid him on the road. He drank heavily. And other times, as a Black person, you could really lose your life, which happened in many cases. So in addition to growing up in the Jim Crow era, where I had to deal with all of the things a Black person had to deal with to try to survive here in the South, we also had, our colorful sheriffs who made it difficult for us. So and trying to get away from farming, I also wanted to get away from the South. So my goal was to go to school in the North and to never live in the South again once I finished college. But in March of 1965, my whole world changed. And my father was murdered on the night of his death as people gathered to try to comfort us. My mother was 7 months pregnant. There were 5 girls, and my father wanted a son really, really bad. So he had convinced my mother to try just one more time for this boy. And once the doctor confirmed her pregnancy, he was giving out cigars. He was just so happy. He told everyone this was a son. And I can tell you the son was born on my high school graduation date, but my father didn't live to see him. So on this night, I'm praying and asking God to help me. I felt as the oldest, I needed to do something. And as I was praying and trying to figure out what to do, the thought entered my mind: you can give up your dreams of living your life in the North. You can stay in the South and devote your life to working for change. And I can tell you a calmness came over me. I was not involved in the civil rights movement, didn't know how I would do it, but I made a commitment that night that I would stay and work. We started the civil rights movement in June of that year. We faced the Gator. By the end of the summer, we had an injunction against him. And things, you could see that things were beginning to change. Later, I didn't get to go to school in the North. I didn't know whether I could go to school at all because my father was a major breadwinner for us and he was a farmer. But I eventually, with the help of one of my uncles and student loans, managed to go to Fort Valley State, an 1890 land grant. That was about 100 miles away, but it was difficult for me because one night, for example, a large group of white men came and burned a cross in front of our house. In the house was my mother, my 3-month-old brother, and my 4 sisters. So it was very difficult to be away from everyone when things were still happening in the county. I went on and married Charles Sherrod, who was one of the founding members of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And of course, my civil rights work would then stretched not only into Baker County, but throughout Southwest Georgia. So while we were doing this work, helping people to register to vote, to have their children integrate schools, and to act and work toward getting their rights in many other ways, many of the people who participated would be kicked off the land owned by white landowners. So in trying to develop a solution to that, we sent a group that included my husband to Israel during the summer of 1968 to look at how Israel was resettling their people. They came back with the information and the things we knew and wanted to do. So we decided in 1969 to create new communities, the first community land trust in the country. We felt to create a land trust was one way of trying to hold on to the land and never losing it. And we went into a period where we did some major planning. I can tell you, when I look back at those plans, that land was supposed to have 3 villages. We talked about the kind of farming we would do, the kind of educational system, health system, where industry would be located. But I can also tell you what we included was how we would work with each other, how we would treat each other. That became a part of all of the plans that we were making. Now, we ran into some major opposition. Sometimes they would shoot at the buildings we were in. The governor of Georgia vetoed all federal money coming into the state to our project. We started farming. We wouldn't know until a crop was up that the liquid fertilizer we purchased was not what we got. We would have, for example, corn at various heights all over the field. And it forced us to do things like pulling a sample and having it analyzed every time we bought something. We ran into that kind of opposition and then could not get any loans, as all farmers were doing, through the Department of Agriculture, and couldn't get any assistance through the Department of Agriculture for our farming operation. We managed to hold on until the droughts started. They started in the latter part of the 70s. We went to the local office, just like all farmers, and we later learned all the plantations in the area owned by wealthy people, they were able to access programs that were denied to us. When we went for an application, the guy said, "You'll get a loan here with my dead body," which put us into a 3-year fight just to get an emergency loan like all farmers were getting. But once they got a lien on all of our property, then they could engineer the foreclosure. So we lost everything in 1985. In fact, the new owner, we had assets worth almost $4 million, or between $4 and $5 million, really. And the new owner got everything for $1 million. And then Farmers Home Administration let him borrow $950,000 of that while they were denying us access to that type of credit. So he only invested $50,000 and then proceeded to dig holes and push all of our buildings over in them. At that point, I started assisting farmers through the Federation of Southern Cooperatives, organizing cooperatives, helping farmers with their business planning, trying to help them get access to credit through the agency and to other programs through USDA. That I became known for the work that my advocacy work for farmers here in the area. And then you fast forward to 2009, when New Communities filed a claim in 1999 in the Pickford case, which was the Black farmers lawsuit. And if you had sat in the courtroom during the hearing for New Communities, you would have left there saying, they just won their case, but they ruled against us. We later learned that the lawyer who was working for the Justice Department against us in our case was arrested in California 2 years later. Turns out she was working as a lawyer in the Justice Department and wasn't even a lawyer. I can point to so many things that happened during that 10-year period before New Communities finally got justice, which was in 2009. We filed a claim in 1999 and finally were informed that we had won in 2009. It was also during that time that Obama, although he didn't have anything to do with this case, they were not aware of it at all in their, because they hadn't done a thorough investigation of me at that point. They did after I was informed that I was being considered for state director, USDA state director of rural development. And so I learned on July 8, 2009, that we had won our case. And then I got a call from the White House on July the 30th, 2009, saying I had been chosen as state director of rural development. We had never had a person of color in that position before. And I really didn't want to do it because we had just won our case and I needed to stay with the work I was doing, but I didn't know when we would ever have another opportunity to have a person of color in the position. So I had to take it. So just like everything else I've done, I jumped into that work. No outreach was being done. For example, we had one county down near Jacksonville, but in the state of Georgia, where there were only 2 housing loans. It was unbelievable. USDA has a program for low-income people where you can buy the land, dig a well, put in a cesspool, build the home, and get all of the costs folded into the cost of the loan. So the agency can make a 102% loan, and the payments are based on your ability to pay. So it just doesn't make sense when you ride through the rural area and see so many people in poor housing. And then see the state of Georgia sending money back to DC when it was needed here. So I just got so involved in that work. And being the first person of color to hold a position, I would get requests to come and speak. And I did that. And of course, one speech that I made was recorded. It played over and over on the TV in that particular county. And of course, it was picked up by Breitbart, who had a vendetta against Obama, and he cut and spliced my speech to make it appear that as a government employee, I refused to help a white farmer, which was not true. But the administration was so afraid of this, they asked me to resign right away. I did that. I told them, on the day this was unfolding, I was way over in another part of the state where the Kia plant is located with part of my staff. So I had to drive 3.5 hours, back to the office. And during that drive, they told me I was being placed on administrative leave. They told me the White House wanted me to resign. And then they asked me to pull to the side of the road to use my BlackBerry to submit my letter of resignation. I did it, but I knew I would fight. And the truth came out. The truth came out a couple of days later when the white farmer I had talked about, stepped forward to say what I did for him and told how they would not have their farm today if I had not done what I did to save it. So my work initially started with Black farmers, and through the years, I also assisted many white farmers. Not all of them will step forward to say what I did, but in this case, this particular farmer did. The White House well, the Secretary of Ag apologized during that week. I received a call from the president. They offered another position, but there was no way I would go back to work for the United States Department of Agriculture. I had enough. So I went back to my work here in Southwest Georgia. There are many things that we're doing. We bought more land. That land ended up, we didn't know the history when it was purchased, but it was once owned by the largest slave owner and wealthiest man in the state of Georgia. And he held the largest number of slaves at that plantation. It was known as Cypress Pond Plantation when we purchased it. We actually have a copy of an ad where 150 slaves were sold at the courthouse steps here in town on December the 29th, 1859. We are taking that place and turning it into a place for all. I can tell you when we initially purchased it, we had what we call Blessing of the Land ceremony, where we tried to get every ethnic group in the area on that property, with hopes that one day we can all heal if we actually work together. But everyone performed their blessing ceremonies from their cultures. We ended up having 3 years of that because it was so educational that people asked us to please continue. We are doing production farming, but we're also teaching a lot of people and trying to bring them, especially young people, back to the land. We have pecan trees, we have orange trees, we have grapevines, we are putting in truffles, we are adding cattle. We have a bee project and teaching farmers to raise bees because we need them in order to produce the crops that we produce here in the region. We are organizing a pecan co-op to actually help farmers improve their production practices so that they can actually get into some of the markets we've been able to get into, and just doing everything we can to help our people learn their history so that we know the history, our history, and can grow and learn and hopefully take that and become better with each other. But we also have to bring our folks back to the land. We were teaching some young kids to plant cabbage and broccoli one day. And one young boy, he was about 8 years old, he stood back. So we were trying to get him involved. And he said, I don't eat food from the earth. It has nature on it. So we asked him, where do you get your food from? He said, the grocery store. And we started telling him where that comes from. And he was trying to cover his face and stop. He just really didn't want to hear it. So we have a lot, we're doing a lot in this area. We're trying to develop we were given a former Winn-Dixie store building. We're developing a food hub and aggregation site for farmers in the 14-county area. I can tell you, David, at this age, it's time to slow down. But it's exciting to have so many projects going on and young people trying to pull them back into this work. So with that, I'll stop and wait for any questions.
Well, Shirley, thanks for a very inspiring and enlightening presentation. And I want to give a special shout out to our mutual friend, Steve Werner, who I think of as Mr. Rotary, who's joined us from Denver, Colorado. Steve, welcome.
Hi, Steve.
And Steve is a really good friend of Margo Huco, so I'll just make light of that as well. So I'll start the questioning, and I'll try to keep it brief and allow anybody else to ask questions they'd like as well. So I'm sort of curious to know, what role do you think Rotary can play with the type of work that you do?
Well, there's so many different ways, because even on a local level, where, markets and assistant, sometimes what steps can be taken. If you take the land we have, and my mind is going all in all different directions, but if you take the opportunity, David, that we have with this former slave plantation that could be used in so many different ways to try to bring us together. We lose population here, we're losing young people, we're losing a lot. And we've got to figure out how to work together to turn that around. So just discussion, together. And what better place to do it than out there on land that had a bad beginning, but could be used to do so much good now.
Thanks for sharing. Another question I had was, what advice can you provide today's youth about engaging in the community?
Yeah, I tell young people that you can make a decision early in life to give back, to help do good in your area. And there's so much work to be done. So just look around, don't do like I did. I wanted out. And so many of them want out. So I say to them, let's look at what we can do to make a better Southwest Georgia. And we've had conferences where we brought young people, Black and white, together to talk about a better Southwest Georgia. It's not easy. If you look at all of the bad, then you're stuck and can't do anything. But let's dream together. Let's figure out how we can make a difference.
Yeah, I love that answer. So I'm sort of curious to know, how do you think race relations have changed since you were a young girl?
Gosh, there's been a lot of change, but lately we seem to be, I don't know where it's going. I just wish we could, I wish we could look at what was and where we don't want to go and figure out how we can move in the middle to keep us from going backward with this work. It doesn't help anyone to be in some of the situations that we find ourselves in. But I've always felt if we could talk to each other, and get to know each other, then we may feel like we can work together with each other for change. But if you stay in your corner and I stay in mine, and we think whatever we think, it's just not going to happen.
Thank you. So there's a couple good questions in the chat. And one of the questions from Gail Anderson is, how do you maintain your cheerful optimism in spite of all the injustices you've suffered? It's remarkable. So what's your secret, Shirley?
I get that question all the time, but I've had to take little successes and blow them up in my mind as something really, really big. I've had farmers who faced discrimination, and I taught them the latest regulations, and then I would go with them to an office and hear them ask, am I being considered under the 87 Credit Act or the 92? And it shocks the person there in that office, or see young people. I have a young person here. It's a struggle trying to keep her. She moved up to Atlanta to complete her PhD, but she gets it. So being able to have an influence on someone like that, who really gives some thought to what can be better and start networking with others to try to bring some of that change, that gives anyone a high.
Yeah, well, it's a good point. And I'm going to paraphrase what you said, which is to take your small successes and celebrate those. Right. Yes. It's not just about the big successes. And I love the way you phrase that, to blow them out of proportion in your mind.
Yeah.
It's like taking a magnifying glass and seeing it bigger than it might actually be. Yes. So there's another question. Chris Fell wants to know what you think of organic farming.
Yes, that's, I feel that we have a lot of farmers that we work with who farming organically. We have a young lady who's very, very good. In fact, we are experimenting with growing rice and using less seed, less fertilizer, less water, and so forth. And that's being done organically. We have a young man who came right out of college. In fact, I saw him at the school, the 1890, and he was about to graduate, pulled him into the work. He's farming organically, growing peanuts on a small scale organically that are being shipped. I think his last shipment went out to Oregon. He's also growing hemp and organically. And so I think as we get more and more young people, there was lots of resistance from the older guys. In fact, I had one older farmer to tell me one day, oh, you can't make no money with that. But the young people are more open to it, and you will see more and more of that here in this area.
Excellent. My last question is more personal. One of my early inspirations was Jimmy Carter with the work that he did with Habitat for Humanity, right? Mm-hmm. And the short thought is that I had a chance to go on one of these Jimmy Carter Blitz builds down in Florida, and after a week of building, we built 10 homes and a daycare center, and Rosalind and President Carter were there. This is obviously after he was president. Mm-hmm. I thought if the president of the United States could take a week out of his busy schedule and volunteer, just be another person swinging a hammer and doing what needed to be done, the average jamoke like myself could obviously take as much, if not more time, right? Because my schedule's not as busy. I was in my mid-30s, about the same time we started the fellowship. And that's one of my motivations. And I'm wondering, where is Albany compared to Plains, Georgia? Because I understand that he still lives in Plains. And I'm wondering what, if any, influence President Carter's had on your work.
Yes. Plains is about 40 miles from where I am right now. And I've always looked at him as the example we need to follow. Whether you're holding a major position or not, giving back to your community. And in this case, he's given back not only to this country, but in others as well. But giving back is part of what that's how I grew up. My folks made us, teachers, the church and all made us feel we needed to reach back and help others. And if everyone would adopt that, reaching back and helping someone, look at where we would be.
Yep. One last question. This comes from Eric Semple, who is our former president, Rotary, one of Chicago president. Are the challenges now and historically faced by Black farmers most acute in Georgia, or are there other states where this is equally pervasive or worse? What about Illinois? Yeah.
So you'll find throughout the South where we've owned land and still own some, by around 1910, Black people owned over 15 million acres of farmland. And today we are down to maybe 2.5 million. And a lot of it has been due to lack of access to credit and the programs that the United States State Department of Agriculture should have administered fairly to all farmers. But you won't find that Georgia is any worse than any of the others. You can go from Texas all the way back up to Virginia or even Maryland and find many, many cases where discrimination was one of the major factors in losing that land. Now, you'll also find today that there are many people like me working on these issues and working to make things different and really trying to get our young people to understand this is a major asset that we still have, what we have left, and that we've got to do something with it. We don't just need to hold on to land just to have land. We need to work. We need to make it work for our people. And so it's not any worse here in Georgia. I could go to Mississippi. I could go to Alabama. I could go to Louisiana. I've worked with farmers throughout the South on many of these issues.
Well, I just want to say thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. Shirley, you made a very enlightening and inspiring presentation. I so admire your stick-to-itiveness, your heart, and what a legacy this is. That my primary issue is advocating for father involvement, and what a legacy it is that you've created as a result of that tragedy that struck your family and took your father's life. So I know he's looking down on you. He's very proud of the work that you're doing.
I feel it. Thank you. And look, I always say to everyone, we're here. I love to have you when this pandemic is not the threat that it is today. I know a lot of people go to Florida, to Disney World and other places. Hey, we're just 40 miles off Interstate 75. Come on down.
Okay, thanks again.
Yes, thank you.
Shirley, thank you so much. It has been very, very important for us to hear what you had to tell us. As a token of our appreciation, we are going to send you the certificate that you see on the screen. Okay. We very much value the time that you spent with us. We know you're very busy. So again, big thanks from the members of the Rotary Club of Chicago, and we wish you well.
Thank you. It was great being with you all.
Well, I invite you to stay if you have the time to stay. Remain with us for the rest of the meeting. We're going to be introducing our guests, and we have some news to share. One of them being the new slate of officers and directors that we're going to have in the club. And for that, I am going to cede the floor to our immediate past president, Eric Kempo, who this year is the chair of the nominating committee, and will tell us what are the results of his work. So Eric, go ahead. Thanks again for all what you've done. Okay. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was a great presentation, and thank you, Marga. So as Marga indicated, it is that time of year where we get to talk to you about our presented slate of candidates. If you've attended any of our Rotary meetings or read the gyro over the past couple of months, you certainly have heard me request suggestions for nominations, and our nominating committee has been hard at work. And so let me first start out by giving a huge thank you for all the time and energy from our nominating committee, which was Lisa Russ, Ted Nebel, Wes Westerfield, and Wayman Anderson. So thank you very much, you guys, for all the support and thoughtful discussion. This is always a challenging task because we have so many great members of our club who are continuously stepping up to support all the great work that we do here. So let me start with the folks, because I know that everybody might not be familiar with who our current board members are either. So I can tell you that several of our board members who are continuing their current term, they'll be midway through the term, starting July 2022. And that's Betsy Meisenheimer, Neetha Nagubati, and Ted Nebel. Mark Smith also was recently appointed by the board of directors to fill a slot that was vacated by Sarah Buck, who moved up to secretary. And she moved up to secretary because that slot was vacated by Evan Freund, who moved out to California. Although I did see Evan on today's call, so I'm glad that he could join us. So those folks will be continuing their terms through 2023. So the other four directors who will have terms starting in 2022 are Hervé Jacquiau, who will be starting his second term in 2022. Laura Inns, also starting her second term in 2022. So those are the two recommended directors there. And then two totally new folks for our board are Chuck Groby and Wayman Anderson. So do give a round of applause to our directors. And then when we look to the officer positions, we have continuing on for another year as treasurer is Matthias Umberg, who's done yeoman's work in that role. Michelle Stewart will be stepping up to take the secretary's role for 2022. And then moving up in the presidential succession, we have, of course, Timo Rybak will be our president immediately after Marga. Alita Williams moving up to president-elect. And then brand new to the presidential succession, our president-elect nominee will be our very own Sarah Buck. So please give a round of applause to our slate of officers and directors. Just a little bit of information on how the process works now at this point. This is the legalese. Pursuant to the bylaws of the Rotary Club of Chicago, additional nominations for any office, including that of director, may be submitted in writing by any active member. To be considered, additional nominations must be submitted by Tuesday, November 23rd, 2021 by the end of the day. And you can send those to me, or you can send them to the office. The nomination must include the name of the member and the position for which that member is being nominated. If no additional nominations are received, the candidates shown on the screen before you and also listed in the gyrator today shall be deemed elected at the club's annual meeting on December 14th, 2021. So December 14th is when that becomes official. If you have any questions on any of that, please reach out to me. Thanks, Margaret.
Thank you, Eric, of the nominating committee.
Oh, thanks, Timo.
Thank you so much, Steve. Excellent work. And I know it was very time consuming, so I really appreciate every minute you dedicated to this slate. Well, and I would like to congratulate, Wayman and who else is here among the new? Well, Michelle, that you are going to be secretary. So it's great to have new faces in the board. That is what makes us so dynamic and fearless. So, well, now we are going to proceed with introducing our guests. And I've seen that we have some of them from out of town. And I see Dennis Fell from the UK, right? Dennis, would you like to say hello to us if you are still here? Maybe he's not. It's very late there. Okay, well, I don't think David is here. So who else is here among our guests? I see Sana Hussein, if I pronounce correctly your name. Welcome.
Yep. Hello, thank you. Great program today.
Thank you. Where are you coming from? Sana, how do you pronounce your name, please?
You pronounced it correctly, Sana.
Sana, okay, great. Okay. And are you a Rotarian? Are you a friend of one of our members?
I'm a Rotarian wannabe.
From where?
So I practice in Orland Park, and I also have an office in Chicago. But I'm on the board of 3 other organizations. So I will join when I can legitimately be a Rotarian. Right now I'm participating because I enjoy it as I can. But if I'm committed, I am committed.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, Sana, we have really great people in Orland Park as well as here, obviously. So whenever you're ready, know how to find us. We would love to get to know you more and tell you more of what we do. Okay?
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for being here with us. Is there anybody else who would like to say hello? Oh, Mr. Rick Tinucci. Hello, Rick.
Hello, Marga. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for... Yes.
I'm a Rotarian in Club 11, St. Louis.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. And we hope to see you again. It's very easy to chime in our meetings.
Yes, thank you. I've enjoyed several of your meetings.
Fantastic. Okay, do we have anybody else? I see Andreas Holder, one of our members. I haven't seen you in a while, so it's great to have you. How have you been?
Great to be here. Thank you. Good program too. Try to make more time to attend again.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, And Joel Tim is also here. Joel, well, I think we met only once when we did the river cleanup, and that was your only in-person activity since you joined the club, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. We have an infant who's had some health problems where he's been keeping everything, but I've really enjoyed the virtual programming, and yeah, this was really good today. Very inspiring. So good to see you, Margaret.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us. And yeah, these virtual meetings I think are here to stay for a long while. So good to see you. Wayman, okay, hi there.
Hello, Margaret. How
Hey.
you doing?
Good. Congratulations and thank you for accepting to be a member of our board.
Gratitude and thank you. I am privileged and honored, and again, I look forward to definitely rolling up my sleeves and successfully being an asset to the Rotary Club of Chicago.
I am really excited. You may like to know also that Wayman is our liaison with the Rotaract Club of Chicago, because before being a Rotarian, Wayman was a Rotaractor. So gosh, you've got gold dust all around you. Okay. Okay, all right. Super. Well, I guess we don't have anybody from other countries. So what I'm going to do now is to tell you about the volunteer opportunities that we have coming up. Bernard is inviting us to sort and inventory orthopedic supplies this coming Saturday. And I hope you can join me. I'm going to be there. And, after that, I'm expected to do a bike ride, a training bike ride for through the Tucson. But I think Bernard convinced me to switch my bike ride for the afternoon. So come and join us. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of orthopedic supplies that we need to inventory before they are sent to Haiti again. The first shipment that was sent made it to Haiti, cleared customs, and we're waiting to hear whether these containers made it to their final destinations. Okay, now perhaps some of you may have heard, we are going back to our 1905 roots, and this is the creation or the inspiration by our super Ed Graziano, who thought, how about we do again what Paul Harris did back in 1905? So we are going to have monthly business networking meetings at different people's offices. So we're going to start rotating again in person. So the first one of these meetings is going to take place on November 17th. Okay, and I see here from 4:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. So, and the address is 1315 South Michigan Avenue in Chicago. So this is going to take place at Tony McHale's office. And Tony is a member that was invited to join our club by Ed Graziano. So Ed, thank you many times for all what you're doing, because I think your idea of having meetings at our members' offices is brilliant. So, and Timo already promised that next month the meeting is going to take place at his office. So we're on a roll here. Okay. So as you know, on another announcement, in Rotary, we like to do good. We're proud. We do good work, but there is a question here that because Rotarians, we're always trying to improve ourselves with what we do. So the title of a discussion series coming up on November 18th from 12 to 1 p.m. is doing good enough? So we're going to have outstanding speakers in a panel, among them Pat Merriweather, that is going to lead a discussion about, are we doing the best thing when we intend to do good or when we do good? So try to be there. It's going to be on Zoom, so easy, okay? I think it will be very inspiring to hear what they have to say. For the upcoming Rotary One meetings. We have the committee meetings coming up like every month, so just go to the website and register. CSC, Community Services Committee, and International Services Committee have a lot going on. So just look at the screen and look at the gyrator or the calendar when you go to the website and register. All right. So the upcoming meetings, again, like every Friday, our members gather to have lunch at the Carvery, which is on the 4th floor of the Union League Club. And there is no agenda here. So you're invited to come and share lunch with friends and talk about whatever inspires you. Next week is this November 16th, and here is where I invite you all to come in person to our meeting. It will be our day to say thank you. Thank you for, like you said, Rotary One celebrates the season of giving. Yes, and the season of being grateful that in spite of the pandemic and how things are not ideal as we would like them to be, we carry on and we continue doing our work. So come this year, I tell you, the Union League Club is not offering the traditional gorgeous buffet, and it's always because of they have to make adjustments because of COVID, but that doesn't matter. The company is what counts. So I really would love to see at least 20 of us having lunch together. So I'm counting with you. All right. And then let's see. On November 30th, we have Antonio Romanucci, an attorney with an interesting story to tell. So, November 30th, I said correct, yes. So that is all what I have to tell you for today. So is there any questions one of you would like to ask? Yeah, okay. Oh, here Eric is saying in the chat box that Ted and Richard are always at the round table. Alita and Eric will be there this Friday, and there are always a few mystery guests. So, you come and join the group if you are in the area for lunch. Okay, and I think with this, my gosh, it is 1:07 and we're done. Unless there's something else you would like to discuss, we have time. And if not, okay. I say 1, 2, 3. Well, I think, we can close by reciting the 4-way test. Can we do that all together? Okay, Shelby, would you like to? There we go. Okay, so the Rotary, the 4-way test is of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? So thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. All the best. Thank you.